Personalizing student engagement is only possible when enrollment management and MarCom are aligned. At Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College, Ryan Hogan's team uses Element 451 to improve student outcomes.
They love the AI functions where if they're coming up with an email campaign, they can ask it to help develop something and then they go in and edit that. They also really enjoy the use of the landing pages for the campaigns that we build. So not only do we design emails and things, but we can also have landing pages that can give information to our students. And so it really brings the team together. So our enrollment staff is helping identify what the issue is, and then the marketing and communication staff can collaborate with them in Element to provide the solution for the problem we're trying to solve.
Aligned teams create better experiences for students. Visit element451.com to learn how an AI-first student engagement platform fuels a smarter, more connected campus experience.
Welcome to In Your Element, the podcast that unlocks practical wisdom in higher education, where leadership meets real talk. I'm Brendan Hinkle, Manager of Solutions Engineering here at Element 451.
And I'm Daniela Norden, Element 451's Director of Customer Success and Engagement. Join us every other Thursday for discussions with everyday heroes using Element 451 in enrollment, marketing, and student success. We'll unlock the practical tips to help you make waves on your campus.
In Your Element is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Tori, you are the CRM Data Manager at Marshall B. Ketchum University, and your esteemed colleague, Tom Rainey, is here, the Associate Vice President for Enrollment at Marshall B. Ketchum. Do you guys actually do the B? Is the B very important, the middle initial?
You know, it's a good question. I throw it in there for branding purposes, but I feel like people throw MBKU. We get a little Ketchum University. So, yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
I see people doing Ketchum, just throwing out there like, Ketchum, right? And it's like, it's easy to say. It rolls off the tongue nicely.
Yeah. I like the B. It feels prestigious to me. So I will continue to call you Marshall B. Ketchum University. Yeah.
Our MarCom team will appreciate that.
There you go.
Always here to support the MarCom folks. Yes. Yeah. But thank you both for being here. We were super excited to have this conversation. I know we had a pre-conversation where we kind of talked about how we're going to frame this up, some of the cool stuff that you all have been doing, and just your approach to how you've been doing workflows and requests for student engagement in Element 451. So thank you both for being here. Let's just start there. And let's go ahead and maybe talk about this. I'm going to call it a mindset. When we were chatting, we talked about how you all are building with intent and you're building to iterate. And I want to ask some examples, but I want to ask how you came to that mindset, how you've embraced it, and how it's really contributed to your success so far. That's a lot in a little bit. Sorry.
I was going to say, did you write out all those questions that she was asked? You wrote them down, right?
We got it.
I'm only kidding.
We got it.
The one thing I would add to that is it also was built out of necessity. I feel like folks don't talk about necessity as much in the context of CRM usage and building out automated workflows. And our team, we had a restructure in the last few years of centralizing our 3 separate admissions offices into one. And part of those efforts, we realized there was this true necessity to try and find overlapping administrative tasks that were just being done by 3 different people. And where it was like, oh, wait, you're doing that too? We do it this way. And it's like 90% of the same way and then 10% just off. Whereas when we started to implement Element, we were able to just house it all in one location. So it was very intentional with our approach, but it was just out of necessity of freeing up staff members to have more time to do meaningful work, which was just free them up to have more time for student interactions.
And we had just recently centralized the admissions process. And so we were kind of ripe for change. And so
Right.
with new hires, the centralization, it just all kind of fell into this, what can we do to make things better? We have this opportunity. Let's go for it kind of deal.
Is this the first time like you were actually able to see everything in one? So like Tom, you mentioned just the necessity of putting everything in, and Tori, you're talking about centralizing. Is this the first time you could see all those different processes in one place so that you could iterate?
Yeah, it was one of those things where everyone was doing variations of the same task, but something that I would do in a Google form, someone was using another platform for, and it was just one of those things where we were wasting so much time because it wasn't all pulled together.
Right.
And honestly, too, for the different programs we have, there are different recruitment tactics, different events. What we've really been able to do too is create like an equity of resources for the students applying to each program then as well, as opposed to having one program and that admissions team have a ton of webinars and a ton of emails communicating, and then one program doing more like on the ground recruitment. We could really kind of assess everything because it was all starting to be stored in one central location. And then we were also able to learn from each other too and say, oh, you do that? That's really interesting. We never thought about that. Could you give us more insight? But we can now build it together and then just change kind of the program that we would then be talking about within Element.
Yeah. Sometimes making sure that the left hand can see what the right hand is doing can make a bigger impact than you even realize.
Totally.
And that's huge. So, having the mindset's one thing, but there are tangible things that I know you implemented in Element. Really thinking of like 2 examples here, right? So with your RFI workflows and then with your microsites, I'd love for you to take kind of some time and talk through both of those individually and kind of tell us, what are some things that you did and some strategies you deployed?
So with the RFI workflows, our 3 programs currently are part of the WebAdmit external applications. And so all of the communications, the content, the basic structure were built there. And so we had the basic structure, the basic content, the framework of where all of our communications existed. So we weren't starting from a blank canvas, so to speak. And so from there, we pulled everything in, kind of sorted through it all. What do we still want to use? What do we want to do new? And then we put together a workflow with, how do we want to like slowly remind people that we still exist, that are still in the prospect stage. And then we built it out step by step, just kind of a generalized workflow. And then Tom put in kind of like rest stops at certain locations to ask students,
I like that.
We're in this generalized bucket. What program are you more interested in? Optometry, PA, or pharmacy? And so it's a pretty long generalized workflow based on the structures and the communications that we pulled in from our pre-existing. And then we kind of branch off into programs if a student selects, a specific instance,
Right.
The program that they want to use.
I like that word rest stops. I feel like
That's kind of what it is.
I feel like I feel like that's kind of like reusable in the CS process.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Exactly.
One of the big things we kind of were just trying to be very mindful of during the implementation of Element was, to Tori's point, we had a lot of content built out already. And I think one of the biggest factors then was just trying to determine, hey, just because we have all of this, does it mean we should be using all of it? How student friendly is it? How forward facing is it in terms of like, is it good for the student experience? And as we got into the workflows and realized, and I feel like I'm just now plugging Element, but realizing how much customization we can make within the workflows and how much logic we could dictate certain pathways for students, it really allowed us to just build these dynamic workflows that were not just, hey, here's all our content. It really allowed us to just give them content that they were interested in. So speaking to the workflows, our 3 programs are our optometry program, PA, and our pharmacy program. And we have a good amount of students that will come into our inquiry pool as students who are exploring the health profession. So they don't really have a designated path yet. So that first workflow was try not to inundate them with too much info, but introduce them to each of the programs over the course of a few weeks. And then the fourth email being, hey, choose one of the options if you want to learn more about it. And because of one of the embed form options, they could easily just do a drop down and pick a program, then drop into a different workflow that's more specialized. But in allowing us to just give, instead of trying to lead with everything, we kind of took a step back and wanted to be intentional about what that student journey will look like. And it allows us to automate it, but also be very mindful of giving them a good experience too through that automation.
Mm-hmm.
This is perfect. There's two things that stood out to me. One is, again, that approach of what's going to work. Let's audit what we have. Do we need everything? So often we have people who buy new technology, who buy a new CRM and think, oh, I'm just going to map what I was doing here into here. And it doesn't take full advantage of the features like dynamic personalization or rest stops or conditions that different technology offers. So I think that you guys starting from that spot made this a better workflow. And then the other part is, Tom, when we talked last, you mentioned like you're still adding on to that like workflow, like you're reviewing now and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And there are a lot of steps, but you're able to kind of add and iterate with something live too.
Yeah. And that's where like the scary part is, because I know something we had chatted about too is this thing where, and I know I definitely struggle with this, is like you want something to be perfect before you launch it. But if you wait till it's perfect, you're never going to launch it. So let's just put something together, believe in the work we're doing. And then honestly, it's kind of better to not wait, because then you can start to get some test cases going through it and getting a sense of what they're interacting with, what they are. And so Tori and I talk about this all the time, but I think what we've learned over time, especially in this year of using Element, is that Element's a living, breathing organism, and it should never be complete. It should be refined, but it should never be done, because we're always getting feedback from students. We're always seeing and understanding what resources they're gravitating toward more. So as we see that and we have data to back it up, we then lean more into those resources and build out more workflows that are kind of, we're following the data, we're following the student experience, and then we're just trying to build out more for that.
Mm-hmm.
Print it out, put it on the wall, living, breathing organism, refining. Tom, you're going to take the stage at Engage this year and tell everybody how to do this. Yeah. Before we get to the microsites, because the microsites is really cool too, what impact have you seen on like this workflow? I think we talked about increased event attendance, I feel like was one of how do you know this is working?
Yeah, I mean, that's the nice thing about enrollment management. Or there's a very obvious metrics you can be looking at to understand, but there's different metrics per funnel stage, right? So obviously, application increases is always helpful, and we've seen that actually across all three programs, which is beneficial. What I do want to focus though on is the event increases that we've seen in just a few months. So we do a lot of webinars, we do a lot of forward-facing events in that virtual setting. We have all grad programs, so we find that does work well for our prospective students. So an event that we ran this year compared to last year before implementation was a webinar about mistakes to avoid in your grad school application process. And we probably had about last year 35 to 40 RSVPs, maybe like 15 or 20 students show up. This year for one of those exact same content, similar email campaign, but we incorporated some SMS notifications around that. We got about 180 RSVPs. So, I mean, yeah, we jumped from like 30 or 40 to 180. And then we had about 90 or 100 students attend. But the nice thing then on the back end is we were able to work out workflows. So for students that didn't attend, we could mark them as no-show and then have an email kick them the event recording after the fact. So then we got engagement from that as well. So that's just one example of many. I mean, we're seeing this very common thread of event increase. Our attendance increases just based on sending like a quick SMS like a day or two beforehand to our prospects.
That's awesome. But to me, that's your content's resonating. It's meeting the right students at the right time and getting them to convert. And that's really all I feel like all of us are trying to do.
I mean, you could even
That's
see it
cool.
in the conversations, in the conversation dashboard within Element, because I'm not on campus. So I don't see who comes to what events and that kind of thing. But as someone removed from campus, I can see it in the to and fro with students. When we first launched, it was, how can I find this information? I'm
Yep.
confused about this, XYZ, just inundated with simple confusions looking for information. But now it's like, I went to this event, I really loved it. And just the conversations are night and day different. And so that's kind of like a non-tangible source of
Yeah.
change that I
Well,
see.
because they're not having to search for what they need anymore,
Yeah.
right? You're providing them accessibility to information, which again, one of the comments I was going to make is like, again, speaking to the point of just as simple as you guys knew what you all were doing, right? The left, you know, with the right. And then it's as simple as, guess what? You have a easy way to automate communications to students just right at the right time, right? And not have to have someone manually do it. These are all super simple concepts that make a resounding impact on what the student experience is, and also how you guys are able to go about your day to day. Because if they were looking or they were confused, you would be inundated with the questions, right? That's more that falls on you all that you have to handle as it comes in as well.
Yeah, one thing we've really seen shift in terms of just our day-to-day work is the amount of time we used to have to spend just doing one-off communications with kind of the same information to students. We've been able to automate a lot of that. And I think automation can sometimes have an odd stigma because it feels like it loses personalization, but it's the exact opposite because we are really intentional about how we build out workflow. So we do feel the content is very specific to each population as we're sending it out. But in automating that, it has freed up our whole staff to just have more time to use the appointments module in Element to just schedule a ton of one-on-one advising sessions. So we're just freeing up staff members to just have more time for then individualized connection. And we're seeing that, really do wonders for the way we're able to work with the student through the funnel process.
Tom was telling me the other day, he goes, "Oh yeah, I was talking to a staff member and I realized I was saying to them, do you remember you had to do that?" And they were like, "No." How did I do that? It's just a very simple, straightforward showcase right there.
That's awesome. Using that example specifically, that was in regards to, so we have every one of our candidates that goes through the admission process. If we're considering them, they have to do a faculty interview with us. And we have a pretty lengthy pre and post interview day workflow. And part of that workflow is sharing with them resources about the interview day. It's having them complete a pre-interview day survey. It's sending an event reminder right before with like details on parking and et cetera. And then on the back end, the day after the event, it's sending out a thanks for coming with a survey. And every single one of those steps, and I think it ended up being like 10 or 11 steps, had to be done one by one per interviewing candidate by a staff member. And I was chatting with her. She goes, "Oh yeah, I did do that." And then I pull up the workflow. I'm like, "This used to be you." And I pointed at every step. And she's like, "I haven't even thought about any of this in like a year ago." That was the goal.
Yeah. Mission accomplished.
That is awesome. And then to have the realization of it too is super cool. What a surreal moment.
It made me happy when she did say, "I haven't even thought about any of this stuff." I'm like, great. It's giving you more time for other meaningful work then, as opposed to, not that reminder emails aren't meaningful, but it's not necessary when we can build out something that will just do it for us and then free her up for other things.
It's the smartest way to use it, right? I mean, it makes you guys better, makes you more efficient, and it makes the engagement stronger. So it's the smartest way to use it. Yes.
So I have to dig in a little bit because you teased that you said we had application increase. And you're like, and we did have that. Do you want to share?
I would be happy to. Yeah, no. Why not brag about increases?
Yeah, I want you to brag on yourself. Go for it.
The long and short of it is because we use web admit, so the CAS system. So in the past, a student would have to apply and then get verified, and then we'd have to basically download a report from CAS, upload it to our own server to get them access to a different portal that we used to use. That portal would then trigger an email to them to then prompt them to create a login to then pay their application fee so we could review it. So that was sometimes a several day process. And then in that time, students would naturally lose interest of like, it just was a very manual process. So the point of that being is that would take so much time for a student to put a whole application together, several days, and then them say, it's not even worth it for me to submit the fee to be considered anymore. Whereas now with our daily imports from Cast to Element, as soon as they're verified and they get uploaded to Element, they get the email right away to pay their application fee. So that's increased our application number, specifically for our PA program, by about 18%, which is about 300-ish applications in 1 year. So it's, and we're still in the middle of our cycle for optometry and pharmacy, but those application numbers are up about 7 to 10% right now. Again, so it's still mid-cycle, but it's drastically changed the way that we're able to communicate with students and yeah, just has led more applications to the table to consider.
What are the 10 AI tools you can't afford to miss in 2025? From automating tasks to personalizing content, find out at AI Engage Summit. This free virtual event on February 25th and 26th will give you the tools to thrive in higher ed's AI-powered future. Register now at enrollify.org/engage. That's awesome. Nice work, you guys. I feel like, yes, that's exactly what you want to happen. Job security, but also, yes, we don't celebrate the wins enough. 18%, double digits, 7, 10%. The fact that you knew when the students dropped off, too, I think was really interesting. How long that window was. A lot of people don't even have insight into that. So the fact that you're able to reduce that window and convert those students quicker, just chef's kiss. Yes. Love it. Love it. Yeah.
I know. It's kind of funny just thinking back to the implementation phase. Like, I mean, I knew we'd figure it out and, come up with something that was going to be great for us. But I really just taking it step by step, one thing after the next. And we've really come so far from where we started. I really was like, I don't know how we're going to get there, but just one step at a time. And those weekly implementation meetings really kind of forced us all to get together, to look at everything together. And I mean, it's just been great. We've really run as a really good team, and one step at a time, bit by bit, adding here, tweaking there. It makes me proud, to be honest, where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to give credit to Tori in this forum, because Tori has been not only the workhorse of getting things done, but just such a great strategic partner in building out so much of this. Because I remember when we were in the early days of implementing, and Tori and I hadn't worked together too much at that point. I remember sending you an email or we connected in some way where I'm like, does this mean what I think it means? Like, can you help me get some clarity? And you're like, I had the same question, but then we were able to kind of come together and then work with Element to kind of get those questions answered. But it was really, I feel like you've just been such a great leader in getting this off the ground, and has just helped us immensely this year.
Well, ditto, Tom. Tom and I have been best buds. Let me tell you what, the two of us. And so I just really, just thinking back, it's just so cool. All the stuff that we've been able to do, and with the, workflows and Tom has built all the microsites so we can kind of transform into that. But it's just been good, real good.
That's awesome.
We need a new. Oh, go ahead, Brendan.
I was just gonna say. I think it's I think a lot of times you can get caught up in the fact that yes, the tool that you use definitely matters, but it's like 50% of the battle, right? The other 50% is the people, and it's so refreshing to hear you guys kind of dive in together, because I'm kind of like the opposite side of the fence here with people that are like, well, we have so much change happening. We're changing process. We're changing this. We can't change our CRM or add another thing into it too. And in my mindset, I'm like, well, you're changing everything else. You might as well fix the other pieces too at the same time, right? And go in and make and that's what you guys did. And that's such something to be proud of, and something I can commend you for, because you're seeing the results of that now, right? You're yielding the fruit of that now. It just took a little bit to get through that tough piece, and yeah, So we're giving kudos all around the place here.
It's a love fest. Yeah.
Well, to that point, one thing I want to touch on that you just mentioned, I think is important, is that, yeah, sometimes there is a fear to like develop and build into a new technology, but I can speak for us. It served as a grounding tool for us through the change. So it really allowed us to just be like, all right, elements like the home, the touch point for everything that we're doing. And yet, Tori, to your point, it's like, may as well do it. It's like, yeah, it helped us understand like, oh, we can push all these processes together and then like find overlap and then push forward with it. So it actually serves the grounding tool for our centralization. So yeah, I feel like folks should consider that if they have any big changes pending or coming. It's like, consider that a big implementation could actually serve as like that facilitation of that.
I love that. We need a new tagline, like bringing students together, but also bringing staff together, like student engagement and staff engagement and like team engagement. Yeah. We've dropped the microsite, nugget a couple of times now, but I have been so impressed with how you've thought about your microsites, how you're creating them for every funnel stage. We got to stop teasing it. Tell everybody the strategy around these microsites. And I feel like, Tom, this might be your baby, and how you laid this out. But yeah, tell everybody what you're doing here, because this is really cool.
Yeah, well, I got to give kudos to the Engage Summit, because this is where the idea was born out of. It was in one of those like working sessions where I was like, wait, what's this function? Microsites? And I'm like looking through it and I'm chatting with Tori and I'm like, wait, this could be used as like our student portal hub. And the very quick context of it is that, like I mentioned before, all of our students interview on campus. So we have resources dedicated to helping students successfully navigate what an interview with us would look like. So we've done a webinar. We've done a couple webinars, but the most recent one is how to prepare for your pharmacy school interview. And it's myself and a faculty member basically just doing a webinar and talking about the things we've seen successful candidates do. We had a current student on the call talking about their experience interviewing with us. And we would usually like email that out to students that we're interviewing. And as we're emailing it, it's like, wait, there's that microsite function where what if we built like an interviewing candidate microsite and we use that as a resource hub? So in that microsite, students could schedule their interview, schedule a one-on-one advising appointment with admissions. They have a great embed feature of video. So we had the webinar. So we were able to embed that in there. We were able to embed a video highlighting the pharmacy program. So as we started to like really dive into it, we're like, oh, this is kind of cool, where we can then, when a student's invited to interview with us, part of that is, hey, log into your personalized microsite. In there, you can schedule your interview and you have all these resources to successfully get through the interviewing process with us. So as we built that out first, we're like, wait, we could do this for admitted students. We could do this for pre-applicants, for applicants. So going back to us having a wealth of resources and trying to think of which to use, we were able to build out microsites per stage. The most recent one we built was the pre-pharmacy resource hub. So essentially, it turned into a microsite for inquiries or prospective students that displayed interest in the pharmacy program. And in that microsite was all webinars on how to successfully apply to PharmCast, mistakes to avoiding your pharmacy school application, a webinar about navigating imposter syndrome when applying to graduate school. But we were able to build all this. It looks so sleek. It's all branded because we were able to just use our branding guidelines and the photo library and Element. But then we're able to email prospective students with a really personalized message saying, hey, we know you're interested in pharmacy programs. At MBKU, we believe in really supporting you, whether you're coming here or another school. Here's a bunch of resources that's going to help you successfully navigate a pharmacy school application process. And we've seen great engagement with that. So I could talk for hours about it. So I'll hold my tongue. But that's kind of the theory in microsites is personalized resource hubs per funnel stage. So yeah, we have it everything. We have it from pre all the way to deposited students.
And that's a point at which we go back to our RFI workflows and then put those magic links into the respective workflow, whether it's an exploring student, so they're going to be in the general, the first one that we built, the RFI, or whether it's one of the program RFIs. So just always thinking about how can we tie this in here? How can we tie this in there? What do we need to go back and check? What can we add to? Because we would much rather add to something pre-existing that is already working than have 50 different rules or workflows, because we already have the RFI built. So we're just going to insert it right in.
What a nice full circle moment. Look at that. Brought it right back.
Right back to the RFI process.
Just
Workflows.
Yeah.
Me and Tom were besties. I'm telling you.
It's incredible. The magic link is one of the things that I think I take for granted. Like, I assume that like everybody can do a magic link, but for our listeners out there, Element generates a special code that you can then send in a campaign that bypasses the login. And it's just a really nice user experience to not have to log into this microsite, log into your application portal. And again, that personalized experience, we know who you are. We know you've interacted with us. You've generated this code, and now you can drop right in to get the resources. I think that's what you're really doing is providing resource and resource matching, and get those resources more quickly and frictionless. And that's what we're all about. Yep.
Exactly.
Love it. Love it.
So I think it's time for the question, right? The question that we ask in every episode. So when do you, and we can do this, Tori can answer, and then Tom, of course, because we don't want anyone feeling left out here. We got to keep the love fest going. But when do you both feel in your element in the work that you do?
I am in my element when I'm learning something new, when I'm starting a new project, when we're implementing something new, when there's something to be learned that's going to help organize, streamline, make something better. That's where I'm in my element. I love learning and implementing new projects. So this is kind of perfect.
Yeah. And for me, I'm in my element when students communicate back to me that the thing we put together was really helpful to them. And we really try and take their feedback and really just implement it into our daily practice. And the feedback we've been getting this cycle compared to previous cycles we've always gotten good feedback from students, but it's been a world of difference this year because students have vocalized back to us that they can see how intentional the resources we're building, how intentional they are for their success. And that's when I feel most in my element, is when we're getting that feedback, whether it's positive or negative. Because if negative, I know that we have a great team then that could take that and figure out a better approach for the student. So when a student feels emboldened and comfortable sharing that feedback, that's when I feel like I'm in my element, because I feel like we're doing a good job providing an environment where they feel comfortable providing that feedback.
That is so awesome. And I can echo that because I love the fact that we get to sit with you guys. You're like, I mean, you're not our students, but you get it, right? Like, we've kind of sold you on this promise of how this can change what you experience and what your students experience. And I think I could probably speak for Daniela and say, like, nothing brings us more joy. Like, it's a blessing for us to do this. So because we can see, like, it work, right? You guys make it work. And I think that that's so incredibly cool. So thank you so much for coming on here and giving us that, because this has been an incredible episode. I can't wait for the listeners to kind of hear everything you guys have to share and reap so much from it, right? You guys have so much wealth, even just being on Element, the short time that you have been, like, you've done so much, and you have so much knowledge and wisdom to share in it. So thank you so much. I can't wait to see what this next year brings for you guys.
Same.
Keep adding to those workflows, keep increasing those application numbers, right? Like, just setting the bar higher and higher. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much.
In Your Element is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too.
Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional.
Our shows help higher ed marketers and enrollment professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your host. Learn from Mallory Wilsey, Artis Kadu, Maya Demishkovich, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.